Hey guys, tonight I want to talk to you about something you've probably been carrying around for years without really understanding it. This quiet weight that sits in your chest when you're always the one saying yes, always the one helping, always the one making space for everyone else, while somehow your own needs keep slipping further and further into the background. You know that feeling, don't you? When someone asks you for something, and before they even finish their sentence, you already know you're going to say yes, even though you're exhausted, even though you don't want to, even though every part of you is quietly whispering no. But the yes comes out anyway, automatic and reflexive. And then later, when you're alone, you lie there thinking, why did I do that again? Why do I always do this to myself? So that's what we're going to explore tonight, people pleasing, and why it's so hard to set boundaries. What it really means when you feel like you're not enough just as you are, and how you can start to change it. Not in some big dramatic way, but slowly, gently, in a way that actually feels possible for you. Just get comfortable wherever you are right now. Let your body settle, let your breathing slow down, and just listen. You don't have to fix anything tonight. You don't have to change anything. You can just be here. Before we go deeper, I'm curious about something. Where in the world are you listening from right now? What time is it where you are? Are you in bed in the middle of the night? Or is it early evening? Or maybe you're on a night shift somewhere? Or in your car, just somewhere quiet where you finally have a moment to yourself? Drop a comment and let me know. I genuinely love knowing who's out there. All right, let's talk. You're lying there and maybe your mind is still spinning a little from the day, replaying conversations, thinking about things you said or didn't say, already worrying about tomorrow and all the people who will need things from you, all the ways you're already stretched thin before the day even starts. And underneath all that noise, there's this quiet voice, this little whisper that says, I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this. I don't know how much longer I can keep showing up for everyone else when there's barely anything left for me. But that voice is so quiet, and everything else is so loud. And it's just easier to keep going, to keep giving, to keep bending, because stopping feels impossible, and changing feels scary, and saying no feels like the most terrifying thing in the world. People pleasing isn't really about being nice or helpful or generous. Those are beautiful qualities, but people pleasing is something different. It's a survival strategy that you learned a long time ago, a way of moving through the world that made perfect sense when you developed it, but has slowly become something that's suffocating you. It started way back, probably when you were young enough, that you don't even remember the exact moment it began. Somewhere in your childhood, you learned that love was conditional, that acceptance had requirements, that if you weren't good enough or helpful enough or easy enough, people might leave. Maybe you had a parent who was stressed all the time, overwhelmed, who didn't have the emotional space to hold your big feelings, so you learned to make yourself small, to not need too much, to be the easy one who didn't cause problems. Or maybe you had a sibling who needed more attention, and you figured out that the way to be seen was to not need anything yourself, to be responsible and self-sufficient and always there to help. And over time, that became who you were, the person who's always fine, who doesn't need support, who everyone can count on. Or maybe you were just sensitive, the kind of child who felt everything deeply, who picked up on emotions in the room like a sponge soaking up water. And when you expressed those big feelings, when you showed that you needed something, you were told you were too much, too sensitive, too emotional. So you learned to push it all down, to manage everything on your own, to become smaller and quieter so people wouldn't be uncomfortable around you. None of this was your fault. You were just a child trying to survive, trying to be loved, trying to belong. The strategies you developed back then made perfect sense. They worked, they kept you safe, they got you the connection you desperately needed. But now those same strategies are killing you, not literally, but slowly, quietly, in ways that are hard to explain to people who don't understand. What once protected you has become the thing that's erasing you. On the outside, you probably look fine, helpful, kind, reliable, the person everyone knows they can count on. But on the inside, you're running on empty, one more request away from breaking, and you don't know how to stop because stopping feels like betraying everyone who's come to depend on you always being available, always saying yes, always being easy. People-pleasing shows up in ways you might not even recognize. It's the way you change your opinion depending on who you're talking to. Not because you're fake, but because you genuinely don't know what you think anymore. You've spent so long adjusting yourself to match other people's preferences that your own voice has gone completely quiet. It's the way you apologize for everything, for taking up space, for having needs, for existing in a way that might inconvenience someone. Sorry to bother you. Sorry, I know you're busy. Sorry, always sorry, always shrinking, always making yourself smaller. It's the way you over-explain everything. You don't just say no, you say no, and then give 5 reasons why, and then apologize for those reasons, and then offer 3 alternatives, because you're terrified of being misunderstood or judged or rejected. But when you over-explain, you give people room to argue with you, to convince you, to make you feel guilty for having a boundary in the first place. It's the way you feel responsible for other people's emotions. If someone is upset, you immediately feel like it's your job to fix it, to make them feel better, even if their feelings have absolutely nothing to do with you, even if their discomfort is theirs to sit with. You absorb it, you carry it, because somewhere along the way, you learn that love means taking care of other people's feelings, even when it destroys your own. It's the way you say yes to things you don't want to do, and then feel resentful afterward. But you don't even let yourself be angry at them, because you're the one who agreed. You're the one who said yes when you could have said no. So you turn that anger inward. You beat yourself up for not being strong enough to set a boundary, for not being brave enough to disappoint someone. It's the way you avoid conflict at all costs, because conflict feels dangerous, like it might end the relationship. So you stay quiet, you let things slide, you pretend everything is fine even when it's not. And the tension builds and builds until one day something small happens and you explode or collapse, and everyone is confused because they thought you were fine, but you weren't fine. You haven't been fine for a long time. Take a breath. In through your nose, slow and steady. Hold it for a moment and let it out. Feel your chest rise and fall. Feel the air move through you. You're safe right now. No one needs anything from you in this moment. You can just be here, just breathing. Here's the hard part. People-pleasing doesn't just hurt you. It hurts your relationships too. When you're constantly bending and agreeing and shaping yourself around other people, they never actually get to know you. They know the version of you that's trying to make them happy, the version that's trying to be what they need, but the real you, the one with opinions and boundaries and needs and complicated feelings, that person stays hidden. Over time, the relationships you build aren't actually real. They're built on a performance, on a version of you that isn't sustainable. And when you finally get exhausted and can't keep up the act anymore, when you start to pull back or set boundaries or say no, people are shocked. They're hurt. They feel betrayed. Not because you did anything wrong, but because the version of you they knew was never the full truth. And that's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to change it. Because you can't build real intimacy with people if you're not being real. You can't be truly loved if you're not being truly seen. And you can't be truly seen if you're hiding behind agreeableness and people-pleasing. At the root of all this is something deeper. It's low self-worth. It's the belief buried so deep in your bones that you might not even recognize it as a belief. That you're not enough as you are. That your value comes from what you do for others, not from who you are. That if you stop being useful, if you stop being agreeable, if you stop making things easy for everyone else, people will leave. And maybe somewhere along the way people did leave. Maybe they left when you were difficult, when you had needs, when you weren't convenient, and you learned that love was something you had to earn, something you had to work for, something that could be taken away if you weren't good enough. But here's the truth that no one told you. That wasn't love. Love doesn't require you to disappear. Love doesn't ask you to betray yourself. Love doesn't punish you for having boundaries. Real love sees you, all of you, the messy parts and the inconvenient parts and the parts that need things, and it stays, not because you've earned it, but because you're worth it, just as you are. But if you don't believe that, if you don't believe you're worth loving just for existing, then you'll keep trying to earn it. You'll keep bending and shrinking and saying yes when you mean no, and you'll wonder why you feel so empty even though you're surrounded by people. Low self-worth doesn't announce itself loudly. It's quieter than that. It's the voice that says, don't be too much. Don't take up too much space. Don't ask for too much. It's the feeling that your needs are a burden, that your feelings are an inconvenience, that you should be able to handle everything on your own without needing anyone. It's the belief that other people's time is more valuable than yours, that other people's comfort matters more than yours, that you should be grateful just to be included, even if being included means constantly compromising yourself. It shows up in the way you downplay your accomplishments, the way you deflect compliments, the way you can't accept praise without immediately pointing out something you did wrong or could have done better. It's in the way you compare yourself to everyone around you and always find yourself lacking. Not smart enough, not successful enough, not attractive enough, not interesting enough, just not enough. So you try harder, you do more, you give more, hoping that if you just do enough, give enough, become enough, maybe then you'll finally feel worthy. But it doesn't work that way, because worthiness isn't something you earn. It's something you already have. You were born with it. You didn't have to do anything to deserve it. You existed, and that was enough. Somewhere along the way, someone convinced you that it wasn't, that you had to be more, do more, give more to matter. But that was a lie. And it's a lie you've been carrying ever since. And it's exhausting you, not in some obvious dramatic way, but slowly, quietly, in ways that are hard to explain to people who don't understand. Low self-worth makes you tolerate things you shouldn't tolerate. Relationships that drain you, jobs that don't value you, friendships that are completely one-sided, situations where you're constantly giving and never receiving. Because you think that's all you deserve. You think that's the best you can get. And you're terrified that if you ask for more, if you expect more, you'll end up with nothing. So you stay. You accept the crumbs. You convince yourself it's fine, that you're being too sensitive, too demanding, that you should just be grateful for what you have. But deep down you know you're worth more than this. You know you deserve better. But knowing it and believing it are two completely different things. This brings us to boundaries, and this is where everything changes. Boundaries are what people pleasers struggle with most, because setting a boundary feels like saying, I matter. And if you don't believe you matter, if you believe your worth is tied to how much you give and how agreeable you are and how little trouble you cause, then setting a boundary feels dangerous. It feels selfish. It feels mean. But it's not. A boundary is not a wall. It's not a punishment. It's not you being difficult or unreasonable. A boundary is simply you saying, this is where I end and you begin. This is what I can do and what I can't. This is what's okay with me and what's not. It's you honoring yourself, respecting yourself, protecting your energy and your time and your peace. And yes, some people won't like it. Some people will push back. They'll call you selfish. They'll say you've changed, that you're not the person you used to be. And you know what? They're right, you're not. You're becoming someone who respects themselves, someone who doesn't disappear to make others comfortable, someone who understands that their needs matter too. If that makes people uncomfortable, that's their discomfort to sit with, not yours to fix. Because boundaries aren't about controlling other people. They're about controlling yourself. You can't make someone stop calling you at midnight, but you can turn your phone off. You can't make someone stop asking you for favors, but you can say no. You can't make someone treat you with respect, but you can remove yourself from situations where you're not being respected. Setting a boundary might mean losing people, and that's the part that feels scary. Some people are only in your life because you don't have boundaries, because you're easy, convenient, always available, always accommodating. When you start saying no, when you start protecting your energy, when you start honoring yourself, those people will leave, and it will hurt. But here's the truth. Those people were never really there for you anyway. They were there for what you could give them, for how you made their life easier. Losing people who only valued you for what you could do for them isn't actually a loss. It's a clearing. It's making space for people who see you, who value you, who respect your boundaries because they respect you. When you first start setting boundaries, it feels terrible. Guilt crashes over you like a wave. You feel selfish, mean, like you're letting people down. Every time you say no, your nervous system screams at you that you're in danger, that you're going to be rejected, abandoned, unloved. Because that's what you learned, that boundaries equal rejection. But you say no anyway. And you sit with the discomfort. You sit with the guilt. You don't rush to fix it or explain it or apologize for it. You just let it be. And something starts to shift. The guilt starts to fade. Slowly, not all at once, but bit by bit you start to realize nothing terrible happened. The person was disappointed maybe, but they moved on. They found another solution. And you're okay. You didn't cause irreparable harm by honoring yourself. You didn't ruin the relationship by having a limit. And if you did, if setting one boundary caused someone to leave, then that relationship was conditional. It was built on you not having needs, and that's not a relationship worth keeping. Boundaries in practice look like this. It's saying, I can't talk right now, but I can call you tomorrow. Not, I'm so sorry. I'm just really busy. I feel terrible. I wish I could talk. I'm the worst. I'll make it up to you. Just I can't right now, but I can later. Clear and simple and kind, but firm. It's saying I'm not available this weekend. Not I'm so sorry I have this thing, and I know it's inconvenient, and I feel bad, but I really can't. Just I'm not available. No explanation, no justification, no apology for existing and having a life. It's saying that doesn't work for me. Not, I guess I could, but it's just that I'm not sure and I don't know. Maybe I'll think about it. Just that doesn't work for me. Clear, direct, kind, but firm. It's saying, I need some space right now. Not, it's not you, it's me. I'm just going through something. I'm sorry, I don't want you to think I don't care. Just I need some space. And trusting that the people who love you will respect that. Boundaries feel uncomfortable because they're new. You've spent your whole life not having them. But discomfort doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It just means you're doing something different. Your nervous system is used to people-pleasing. It's used to bending. It's used to monitoring everyone else's emotions and adjusting yourself accordingly. Now you're asking it to do something different, to prioritize you, to honor your needs, to let other people be disappointed without fixing it. And that feels dangerous because your nervous system thinks that boundaries will get you rejected, that they'll get you abandoned, that they'll make people stop loving you. But that's an old story, a story from when you were young and didn't have power, when you needed other people to survive. But you're not that child anymore. You're an adult now. You have power. You have choices. You don't need everyone to like you to be okay. You don't need everyone's approval to be worthy. You can let people be upset with you, and you can still be fine. You can disappoint people and still be a good person. You can say no and still be kind. These things are not mutually exclusive. You've just been taught that they are. You've been taught that being kind means sacrificing yourself, that being good means never having limits, that being loving means disappearing, but none of that is true. Let's breathe again. In through your nose, deep and slow, hold it for a moment, and let it out through your mouth. Feel the release, feel your body soften just a little. You don't have to have all the answers right now. You don't have to fix everything tonight. You're just here, just listening, just being, and that's enough. Here's the hard truth about people pleasing. It's not actually about making other people happy. It's about managing your own anxiety. You say yes because saying no makes you anxious. You avoid conflict because conflict makes you anxious. You take care of other people's emotions because their discomfort makes you anxious. You're not doing it for them, you're doing it for you, to avoid the discomfort of disappointing them, to avoid the fear of rejection, to avoid the terror of not being needed. And that's okay, that's human, but it's important to recognize that, because when you realize that people-pleasing is about your fear, not their happiness, it changes everything. The work isn't about learning how to say no. It's about learning how to tolerate the discomfort that comes with saying no. It's about learning how to sit with the fear of disappointing someone without rushing to fix it. It's about learning that you can handle other people's emotions without absorbing them, that you can let someone be upset without making it your responsibility, that you can set a boundary and survive the guilt. You are not responsible for other people's feelings. Let me say that again. You are not responsible for other people's feelings. You can care about how someone feels without making it your job to fix it. You can have empathy without taking on their emotional labor. You can be kind without sacrificing yourself. Someone else's disappointment is not your emergency. Someone else's discomfort is not your problem to solve. Someone else's reaction to your boundary is theirs to manage, not yours. You're allowed to do what's right for you, even if it's not what's easy for someone else. You're allowed to prioritize yourself, even if it inconveniences someone. You're allowed to have needs, even if it means someone else has to adjust. Because you matter. Your energy matters, your peace matters, your well-being matters. And if you keep sacrificing those things to make everyone else comfortable, there will be nothing left of you. You'll be a shell going through the motions but not really there. And that's not living, that's surviving. And you deserve more than survival. When you keep people pleasing, when you keep ignoring your needs, when you keep saying yes when you mean no, you burn out, not in a dramatic way, not all at once, but slowly, quietly. You start to feel numb, disconnected, like you're going through the motions of your life, but you're not really there. You start to resent people, not because they're bad people, but because you're exhausted, because you've been giving and giving and giving, and you have nothing left. And you can't even blame them because they didn't force you to say yes. You chose it. So you blame yourself. You tell yourself you're weak, that you should be able to handle it, that everyone else seems fine, so why can't you be fine? The resentment builds, the exhaustion deepens, and one day you wake up and realize you don't even know who you are anymore. You don't know what you like, what you want, what you need, because you've spent so long shaping yourself around other people that you've lost yourself completely. You also start to attract people who take advantage of you, not necessarily because they're bad people, but because you've trained them to. You've trained them that your boundaries are negotiable, that if they push hard enough, you'll give in, that if they guilt you enough, you'll say yes, that your needs don't really matter. So they keep asking, keep pushing, keep taking, because you keep giving, and then you wonder why you're surrounded by people who drain you, why your relationships feel one-sided, why you're always the one giving and never receiving. But it's not bad luck. It's not that you attract takers. It's that you've made yourself available to be taken from. Until you change that, until you set boundaries and stick to them, the pattern will keep repeating. You'll keep attracting people who need you to not have limits, who need you to be endlessly available, who need you to sacrifice yourself, because that's what you're offering. That's what you're teaching people is acceptable. So how do you change it? How do you stop people pleasing? How do you start believing you're worthy just as you are? How do you set boundaries without falling apart? It starts with awareness. You have to see the pattern first. You have to notice when you're saying yes but meaning no, when you're apologizing for things that aren't your fault, when you're over-explaining yourself, when you're taking on other people's emotions. You have to catch yourself in the act. And at first you won't be able to stop it. You'll notice it, but you'll still do it. And that's okay. Awareness comes before change. You have to see it clearly before you can shift it. So just start noticing, without judgment, without criticism. Just notice, oh, I'm doing it again. I'm saying yes when I want to say no. I'm apologizing when I didn't do anything wrong. I'm making myself small. Then you start small. You don't have to set massive boundaries right away. You don't have to cut people off or have big confrontations. You start with tiny, almost invisible boundaries. You let a text go unanswered for a few hours instead of responding immediately. You say, "Let me check my schedule and get back to you." Instead of automatically saying yes, you tell someone, "I need a minute," instead of rushing to fix their problem. Small things that feel manageable, and you sit with the discomfort that comes with them. You notice the guilt, the anxiety, the fear, and you don't act on it. You don't rush to fix it. You just let it be there, and you breathe through it, in and out, slow and steady. And over time, the discomfort gets quieter, the guilt fades, the fear loosens its grip. You realize you're okay. You set a boundary, and the world didn't end. The person was disappointed maybe, but they moved on. And you're still here, still standing, still worthy. And that's when things start to shift. That's when you start to believe that maybe you can do this. Maybe you can honor yourself without destroying everything. Maybe your needs do matter. Maybe you are worth protecting. Practice saying no without explaining. Just "No, I can't." Or "No, that doesn't work for me." And then stop. Not "I can't because of this and also this. And I'm really sorry. And I wish I could, but just no." And let that be enough. Let the silence sit. Let them be disappointed if they need to be, and trust that you can handle it. Practice sitting with other people's disappointment without fixing it. Someone is upset. You acknowledge it. I hear that you're disappointed, but you don't change your boundary to make them feel better. You let them feel disappointed, and you trust that they can handle their own emotions, that it's not your job to manage how they feel about your limits. Practice stopping mid-apology. You catch yourself saying, "I'm sorry" for something that doesn't require an apology, and you stop. You don't finish the sentence. Or you say, "Actually, I'm not sorry. I needed to do that for myself." And you let that be okay. You let yourself take up space without apologizing for it. Practice asking for what you need, even when it feels scary, even when you're sure the answer will be no, even when you feel like you're being too much. You ask anyway. "I need help with this. I need some time alone. I need you to listen without trying to fix it." And you let the answer be what it is. If they say no, it doesn't mean you were wrong to ask. It just means they can't give you what you need right now. And that's okay. You'll find another way. And the most important practice of all, spending time alone, real time, not scrolling, not distracting yourself, just sitting with yourself in silence, asking yourself questions. What do I actually want right now? Not what would make everyone else happy, not what's easiest, not what's expected. What do I want? What do I need? What feels right for me? And listen, really listen to that quiet voice inside you, the one that's been drowned out by everyone else's needs and opinions and expectations. That voice is still there. It's been there the whole time. You've just been too busy pleasing everyone else to hear it. But if you sit in the silence long enough, if you stop performing for a moment, if you let yourself just be, that voice will start to come back. And it will tell you the truth about what you want, who you are, what you're ready to let go of, and what you're ready to fight for. Your worth isn't something you build by achieving more, or doing more, or being more. You can't earn your way into worthiness, because you're already worthy. You always have been. The work isn't building self-worth, it's uncovering it. It's removing all the layers of conditioning and shame and fear that have been covering it up. All the messages you absorbed about not being enough, about having to prove yourself, about needing to earn love. Those messages aren't true. They never were. But they felt true because they came from people you trusted, people you loved, people who had power over you. And so you believed them, you internalized them, and you've been living by them ever since. But you don't have to anymore. You can start to question those messages, to challenge them, to ask, is this actually true? Do I actually have to earn love? Am I actually only valuable when I'm useful? Do I actually have to sacrifice myself to matter? And the answer every time is no. You don't. You never did. You were worthy from the beginning, and you still are, even if you say no, even if you disappoint people, even if you stop being convenient. You're still worthy, just for being you, not because of what you do or who you help or how much you give, just because you exist. That's it. That's enough. When you start to believe that, when you start to believe you're worthy just as you are, things change. You stop chasing validation. You stop needing everyone to like you. You stop bending yourself into shapes to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. You start making decisions based on what's right for you, not what will make other people happy. You start saying no without guilt, yes without resentment. You start showing up as yourself, fully, messily, imperfectly. And the people who are meant for you, they'll stay, not because you've earned it, but because they see you, the real you, and they value that. The people who aren't meant for you, they'll leave. And that's okay, because you're not here to be everything to everyone. You're here to be you. And the right people will appreciate that. The right people will respect your boundaries. The right people will want you to honor yourself. The right people will love you, not in spite of your limits, but because you have them. Because having limits means you know who you are, and you're not willing to betray yourself to keep someone else comfortable. Real love doesn't ask you to disappear. It doesn't ask you to ignore your needs. It doesn't punish you for having boundaries. Real love says, tell me what you need. Tell me when I've crossed a line. Tell me when you need space. Real love wants you to be honest, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's disappointing, even when it's inconvenient. Real love doesn't want you to sacrifice yourself. It wants you whole. It wants you rested. It wants you to have energy for yourself, not just for everyone else. Real love respects your no. It doesn't push, it doesn't guilt, it doesn't make you explain or justify or apologize. It just says okay, and it adjusts. Real love celebrates you setting boundaries, because it knows that boundaries mean you're taking care of yourself, and it wants you to take care of yourself because it cares about you. Not just what you can give, but you, your well-being, your peace, your happiness. And here's what you need to know about the people who don't respect your boundaries. They're showing you who they are. Believe them. If someone gets angry when you say no, if someone guilt trips you for having limits, if someone makes you feel bad for honoring yourself, that's not love, that's control, that's manipulation. That's someone who values their comfort more than your well-being. And you don't owe them anything. Not your time, not your energy, not your peace. You're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to create distance. You're allowed to say, this isn't working for me anymore. And you don't have to feel guilty about it, because you're not responsible for managing their reaction. You're not responsible for making them understand. You're not responsible for convincing them that your boundaries are valid. Your boundaries are valid because you set them. That's it. That's the only reason you need. When you've done the work, when you've started saying no, when you've started honoring yourself, it feels lighter. Not all the time, not every day, but more often than before. You feel less resentful, less drained, less like you're carrying the weight of everyone else's problems. You feel more like yourself, more aligned, more at peace. You start to notice that you have energy for the things you care about, that you're not just surviving, you're actually living. You start to notice that the relationships in your life feel different, more balanced, more reciprocal, more real, because you're showing up as yourself and the people around you are responding to the real you, not the people-pleasing version. You start to notice that you're not afraid of disappointing people anymore, or at least the fear is quieter. You still feel it sometimes, but it doesn't control you. You can feel it and still do what's right for you. You start to notice that you trust yourself more. You trust your instincts, your intuition, your knowing, because you're not drowning it out with everyone else's opinions anymore. You're listening to yourself, and you're starting to believe that what you want matters, that what you need matters, that you matter. Here's what I need you to hear tonight. You are not too much. You're not too sensitive. You're not too needy. You're not asking for too much. You've just been giving to people who don't know how to give back. You've been shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that are too small for you. You've been apologizing for existing in a way that requires care. But you don't have to do that anymore. You're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to have needs. You're allowed to expect reciprocity. You're allowed to walk away from relationships that drain you. You're allowed to stop performing. You're allowed to just be messy, imperfect, human, and still worthy of love, still worthy of respect, still worthy of care. Not because of what you do, but because of who you are. And who you are is enough. It always has been. Let me tell you something else about people-pleasing that nobody talks about. It's lonely, deeply lonely, in a way that's hard to explain. Because you're surrounded by people, you're always helping, always there, always available. But somehow you still feel completely alone. And that's because nobody really knows you. They know the version of you that says yes, the version that's helpful and easy and accommodating. But they don't know the real you, the one who's tired, the one who has needs, the one who sometimes just wants to say no without having to explain why. And here's the cruel irony of it all. You people please because you're afraid of being alone, afraid of being rejected, afraid of losing connection. But people pleasing guarantees loneliness, because you can't be truly connected to someone if you're not being truly yourself. You can't be intimate with someone if you're hiding. You can't be loved for who you are if nobody knows who you are. So you end up feeling alone anyway, but now you're alone while surrounded by people, which somehow feels worse, because you're doing all this work, all this bending, all this sacrificing, and you're still not getting what you really need, which is to be seen, to be known, to be loved for who you actually are, not for what you can do. Real connection requires vulnerability. It requires showing up as yourself, with your needs, your boundaries, your flaws, your truth. And yes, that's terrifying because it means risking rejection, real rejection, not rejection of the performance, but rejection of you, the actual you, and that feels so much scarier. But here's what I want you to understand. If someone rejects you for being yourself, for having boundaries, for honoring your needs, they were never really there for you anyway. They were there for what you could give them, for the role you played, for the convenience you provided. And losing that isn't actually a loss. It's a revelation. It's clarity. It's knowing exactly where you stand. And as painful as that is, it's better than spending years wondering. Better than pouring yourself into relationships that were never really real. Better than shrinking yourself for someone who doesn't actually see you. Let's talk about perfectionism for a moment, because people-pleasing and perfectionism often go hand in hand. They're both rooted in the same belief that you have to earn your worth, that you have to prove you're good enough, that love and acceptance are conditional. And if you're not perfect, if you make mistakes, if you let people down, you'll be rejected, abandoned, replaced. So you hold yourself to impossible standards. You try to do everything right, to never mess up, to always have the answer, to always be helpful, to always be pleasant, to always be enough. But perfection is impossible. You know that logically, but emotionally you can't accept it. Because if you're not perfect, you're afraid you'll be rejected. And when you inevitably fall short, because you're human and humans fall short, you don't forgive yourself, you criticize yourself, you tell yourself you should have done better, should have known better, should have been better, and the shame spiral begins, and that shame drives you to try even harder to be perfect, which of course you can't be, and the cycle continues. But here's what perfectionism really is. It's not about excellence, it's not about wanting to do your best. It's about fear. Fear of being seen as flawed, fear of being judged, fear of not being enough. And as long as you're chasing perfection, as long as you're trying to prove your worth through flawlessness, you'll never feel good enough, because perfection doesn't exist. And even if it did, it wouldn't make you more worthy. You're already worthy. Right now, with all your flaws and mistakes and humanness, you're worthy because you exist. Not because you're perfect, not because you never mess up, not because you always get it right, just because you're here, that's it, that's enough. So what would it feel like to let go of perfection, to let yourself be messy, imperfect, human, to make mistakes and not spiral into shame, to disappoint someone and not crumble, to have a bad day and not see it as proof that you're failing at life? What would it feel like to just be, without constantly monitoring yourself, without constantly trying to optimize and improve and be better? It would feel like freedom. It would feel like rest. It would feel like coming home to yourself after years of being a stranger. And here's the thing about letting go of perfectionism. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you stop trying. It doesn't mean you become lazy or mediocre. It just means you stop equating your worth with your performance. You stop believing that you have to be perfect to be loved. You stop punishing yourself for being human. And from that place, from a place of self-acceptance instead of self-criticism, you actually do better. You have more energy, more creativity, more capacity, because you're not spending all your energy trying to be perfect. You're just being yourself. And that's always been enough. Let's talk about what happens in your body when you people please. Because this isn't just psychological, it's physiological. Your nervous system is involved. Your whole body is involved. And understanding that can help you see why changing these patterns is so hard. Because you're not just fighting against thoughts, you're fighting against your body's survival mechanisms. When you think about saying no to someone, when you imagine setting a boundary, your body responds as if you're in danger. Your heart rate increases, your chest tightens, your stomach drops, your palms might get sweaty, your mind might start racing. And that's not just anxiety, that's your nervous system activating a threat response. Because somewhere deep in your body, in the parts that remember every time you were rejected or punished or abandoned for having needs, saying no feels dangerous. It feels like a threat to your survival, to your safety, to your connection. And so, your body tries to protect you by making you so uncomfortable that you back down. You say yes, you accommodate, you make the discomfort go away by doing what you've always done. This is why willpower alone doesn't work, because you're not just trying to change a habit, you're trying to override a survival response. And your body is very good at survival. It's been keeping you alive your whole life, and it's not going to give up its strategies easily, even when those strategies are no longer serving you. So when you try to set a boundary and your body screams at you to stop, it's not because you're weak or broken or doing something wrong. It's because your nervous system is doing its job. It's trying to keep you safe the only way it knows how. The problem is, it's protecting you from a threat that no longer exists. It's protecting you from the child's experience of rejection, not the adult's reality. And until you help your nervous system understand that you're safe now, that boundaries won't destroy you, that you can handle other people's disappointment, it's going to keep pulling you back into people-pleasing. It's going to keep convincing you that saying no is dangerous, because that's what it was trained to do. So how do you retrain your nervous system? How do you teach it that boundaries are safe? You do it slowly, gently, with repetition. You start by setting small boundaries, like we talked about before, things that feel manageable. And when your nervous system reacts, when the guilt rises, when the fear kicks in, you don't run from it. You don't try to fix it or make it go away. You stay with it. You breathe through it. You say to yourself, I know this feels scary. I know this feels dangerous, but I'm safe. I'm okay. I can handle this. And you let the feeling move through you. You let it peak, and then you let it pass, because feelings always pass. Always. They rise, they crest, and they fall. But if you've been avoiding them your whole life, if you've been doing anything to make them stop, you don't know that. You think the feeling will last forever. You think it will consume you, so you do anything to make it stop. You apologize, you take back your boundary, you say yes when you meant no. But that just reinforces the pattern. It teaches your nervous system that the feeling was right to warn you, that boundaries are dangerous, and the cycle continues. But if you stay with the feeling, if you let it rise and not act on it, something shifts. You realize, oh, I'm still here. I'm still okay. The feeling passed, and I survived. And your nervous system starts to learn. Slowly, over time, it starts to understand that boundaries don't equal danger, that you can disappoint someone and still be safe, that you can say no and still be loved, not by everyone, but by the people who matter, and that's enough. Take a breath, in, through your nose, slow and deep. Hold it for a moment and let it out. Feel your body. Feel where it's touching the bed or the couch. Feel the weight of it, the solidness of it. You're here. You're safe. You're allowed to rest. You don't have to perform right now. You don't have to be anything for anyone. You can just be. Let me tell you about the difference between guilt and shame, because these are two different things and understanding the difference matters. Guilt is, I did something bad. Shame is, I am bad. Guilt says I made a mistake. Shame says I am a mistake. Guilt is about behavior. Shame is about identity. When you set a boundary and you feel guilty, that's actually normal. That's your nervous system adjusting to doing something new, something that feels uncomfortable. But guilt can be productive. It can tell you when you've actually done something wrong, when you need to make amends, when you need to change your behavior. But shame is different. Shame says you're fundamentally flawed, that there's something wrong with you, that you're not worthy of love or connection. And shame is what keeps you trapped in people-pleasing. Because if you believe you're fundamentally not enough, you'll do anything to hide that. You'll bend yourself into shapes to prove that you are enough. You'll say yes when you mean no, because saying no might reveal that you're not as good as you're pretending to be. Shame thrives in secrecy, in hiding, in the belief that if people really knew you, they'd reject you. And the antidote to shame is vulnerability, is letting yourself be seen, is sharing the parts of you that you think are unlovable and discovering that you're still loved, still accepted, still worthy. But that's terrifying, because what if you're vulnerable and people do reject you? What if you show them the real you and they walk away? And yes, that might happen. Some people might walk away. But here's what I need you to understand. If they walk away when you're being real, they were never really there in the first place. They were there for the performance. And you don't want relationships based on performance. You want relationships based on truth. The people who are meant for you, the people who truly care about you, they won't walk away when you're vulnerable. They'll move closer. They'll say, thank you for trusting me. Thank you for letting me see you. And that's the kind of connection that actually heals shame. That's the kind of connection that makes you feel truly known and truly loved. Let's talk about resentment, because this is one of the most painful parts of people pleasing. You do all these things for people. You say yes, you help, you accommodate, and then you feel resentful, bitter, angry. But you can't express that anger because you're the one who agreed. You're the one who said yes when you could have said no. So the anger has nowhere to go except inward. And you start to resent yourself as much as you resent them. You beat yourself up for being weak, for not having boundaries, for letting people walk all over you. But here's the thing. They're not walking all over you. You're lying down in front of them. You're inviting them to, not consciously, not intentionally, but through your pattern of always saying yes, always being available, always accommodating. You're teaching them that your boundaries don't matter. And then you're angry at them for doing exactly what you taught them to do. And that's not fair to them. And it's not fair to you. Because resentment is poison. It poisons your relationships. It poisons your inner world. It makes everything feel heavy and bitter and exhausting. The antidote to resentment is boundaries. Clear, consistent boundaries. Saying no when you mean no. Saying yes only when you actually want to. Not when you feel obligated or guilty or afraid. And here's the beautiful thing about boundaries. When you have them, when you honor them, you stop feeling resentful. Because you're not doing things you don't want to do. You're not sacrificing yourself. You're not betraying yourself. And when you say yes, it's a real yes. It's a yes that comes from genuine desire to help or genuine availability, not from fear or obligation. And that kind of yes feels completely different. It feels good. It feels clean. It doesn't leave you feeling drained and resentful. It leaves you feeling good about yourself and good about the other person. So if you're feeling resentful right now, if you're looking at the people in your life and feeling angry and bitter, I want you to ask yourself, where have I not set boundaries? Where have I said yes when I meant no? Where have I accommodated when I needed to stand firm? Because the resentment is information. It's telling you where you've betrayed yourself, where you've prioritized someone else's comfort over your own well-being. And instead of directing that anger outward at them or inward at yourself, you can use it as fuel, as motivation to start setting boundaries, to start honoring yourself, to start saying no. And yes, it will be uncomfortable. Yes, people might be surprised or upset. But the alternative is continuing to live with this resentment, continuing to feel angry and bitter and exhausted. And that's no way to live. Let's talk about what people-pleasing costs you, because I don't think you fully realize how much it's costing you. It's costing you your energy, your time, your peace, your authenticity, your relationships, your sense of self. It's costing you everything, and you're giving it all away for what? For people to like you, for people to think you're nice, for people to not be upset with you. But here's the question, are they even really liking you? Or are they liking the version of you that says yes, the version that makes their life easier, the version that never causes problems because that's not really you, that's a performance, and you can't sustain a performance forever. Eventually you're going to get tired, eventually you're going to break, eventually the real you is going to come out. And then what? People-pleasing is also costing you opportunities, because when you're always saying yes to everyone else, you're saying no to yourself. You're saying no to your dreams, your goals, your desires, your rest, your peace. You're saying no to the life you actually want because you're too busy living for everyone else. It's costing you your health because chronic people-pleasing is stressful. It keeps your nervous system activated. It keeps you in a state of vigilance and anxiety, always monitoring other people's emotions, always adjusting yourself, always walking on eggshells. And that takes a toll on your body, on your immune system, on your sleep, on your digestion, on everything. It's costing you your mental health because when you're constantly betraying yourself, when you're constantly prioritizing everyone else over yourself, when you're constantly feeling resentful and exhausted and empty, that leads to anxiety, depression, burnout, a sense of hopelessness and helplessness, a feeling that you're trapped in a life you didn't choose. And it's costing you your future because if you don't change this pattern, if you keep people-pleasing, keep saying yes when you mean no, keep making yourself small, where will you be in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years? You'll be exhausted, bitter, resentful, wondering where your life went, wondering who you even are underneath all the accommodation. So yes, setting boundaries is uncomfortable. Yes, people might be upset. Yes, you might lose some relationships, but what's the alternative? Continuing to pay this enormous cost, continuing to sacrifice yourself, continuing to live a life that isn't really yours. Because that's what's at stake here. Not just your comfort, not just your relationships, but your entire life, your one precious life. And you deserve better than this. You deserve to live a life that feels like yours, a life where you have energy for the things you care about, where you have relationships that feel real and reciprocal, where you know who you are and you like who you are, where you can rest without feeling guilty, where you can say no without feeling like a bad person. That life is possible for you, but it requires you to stop people-pleasing, to start setting boundaries, to start choosing yourself. And I know that feels impossible right now. I know it feels terrifying, but it's not. It's hard. Yes, but it's not impossible. People do it every day. People just like you. People who were trapped in people-pleasing for years, for decades, and they changed, slowly, one boundary at a time, one no at a time, one moment of choosing themselves at a time. And if they can do it, you can do it. Because there's nothing special about them. They're not stronger than you. They're not braver than you. They're not better than you. They just decided that the cost of people-pleasing was too high, that they couldn't keep living this way, and they started small, they started messy, they started scared, but they started. And that's all you need to do, just start. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to know exactly what you're doing. You don't need to be perfect at it. You just need to start. One small boundary, one small no, one small moment of honoring yourself, and then another, and another, and another. And over time, those small moments add up. They compound, they change you. They change your life. Let's breathe together, in through your nose, deep and slow. Hold it, and out through your mouth, long and gentle. Feel your body relaxing. Feel your mind settling. You're doing good. You're here. You're listening. You're considering that maybe, just maybe, things could be different. And that's enough for tonight. That's more than enough. I want to talk about what it means to choose yourself, because I think there's a misunderstanding about this. People think choosing yourself means being selfish, means not caring about other people, means only thinking about yourself, but that's not what it means at all. Choosing yourself means recognizing that you matter too, that your needs are as important as everyone else's needs, that your time and energy are valuable and limited and deserve to be protected. It means making decisions based on what's right for you, not just what's easy for other people. It means honoring your limits, your boundaries, your capacity. It means saying no when you need to say no, even if it disappoints someone, even if it inconveniences someone, even if it makes someone upset. Because you understand that you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't help anyone if you're completely depleted. You can't be there for others if you're not there for yourself. Choosing yourself is not selfish. It's self-preservation. It's self-respect. It's recognizing that you have a responsibility to take care of yourself, that nobody else is going to do it for you, that if you don't prioritize your own well-being, nobody will. And here's what's interesting. When you start choosing yourself, when you start setting boundaries and honoring your needs, you actually become better at helping other people, because you're helping from a place of fullness instead of emptiness, from a place of genuine desire instead of obligation, from a place of strength instead of depletion. When you help people because you want to, because you have the capacity, because it genuinely feels good, that help is so much more valuable than help that comes from guilt or fear or people-pleasing, because it's real, it's sustainable, it's not going to lead to resentment or burnout, it's coming from a healthy place. So choosing yourself actually makes you a better friend, a better partner, a better parent, a better colleague, because you're showing up as your real self, with your real capacity, and you're giving what you actually have to give, not what you think you should give or what you're afraid will happen if you don't give. And you're modeling for other people what it looks like to have boundaries, what it looks like to honor yourself, what it looks like to say no. And that's a gift, because so many people are trapped in people-pleasing too. They're watching you, wondering if it's possible to change, wondering if they're allowed to have boundaries too. And when they see you doing it, when they see you choosing yourself and surviving, thriving even, that gives them permission to do the same. So choosing yourself isn't just for you. It's for everyone around you. It's you breaking a cycle. It's you showing that there's another way to live. Let me tell you about the concept of radical self-responsibility, because this is important. Radical self-responsibility means recognizing that you are responsible for your own happiness, your own well-being, your own life, not anyone else's, yours. It means recognizing that when you say yes, when you mean no, that's on you, not on the person who asked. They asked, which is fine. People are allowed to ask, but you said yes when you didn't want to, and that's your responsibility, not theirs. It means recognizing that when you feel resentful because you're doing too much for people, that's on you, because you're the one who keeps saying yes, you're the one who keeps overgiving, you're the one who's not setting boundaries. And I know that sounds harsh, but it's actually liberating. Because if it's your responsibility, that means you have the power to change it. If it was someone else's fault, if it was someone else's responsibility, you'd be helpless. You'd be waiting for them to change, and they might never change. But if it's your responsibility, you can do something about it. You can start setting boundaries. You can start saying no. You can start choosing yourself. Radical self-responsibility also means recognizing that other people are responsible for their own emotions, not you. If someone is disappointed because you said no, that's their emotion to manage, not yours to fix. If someone is upset because you set a boundary, that's their feeling to sit with, not yours to take on. You can have empathy for them. You can acknowledge their feelings, but you don't have to change your boundary to make them feel better, because their feelings are their responsibility. Just like your feelings are your responsibility. And this is where a lot of people get confused. They think that if they care about someone, they have to take care of that person's emotions. They have to make sure that person is never upset or disappointed or uncomfortable. But that's not care. That's codependency. Real care is respecting someone enough to let them have their own feelings, to trust that they can handle their own emotions, to not rob them of the opportunity to learn how to manage disappointment or discomfort. When you rush to fix someone's emotions, when you change your boundaries to make them feel better, you're actually sending them a message that you don't think they're capable of handling their own feelings, that they need you to manage their emotions for them. And that's not respectful, that's not healthy, that's not sustainable. So radical self-responsibility means you take responsibility for your own happiness and well-being, and you trust other people to take responsibility for theirs. And that creates healthy relationships, balanced relationships, relationships where both people are whole and adult and capable. Let's talk about what happens when you first start setting boundaries with people who are used to you not having any, because this is where a lot of people get stuck. They set a boundary, the person pushes back or gets upset, and they immediately think, see, I knew this would happen. Boundaries ruin relationships, I should just go back to saying yes. But here's what you need to understand. When you first start setting boundaries, especially with people who have benefited from you not having them, there's going to be resistance. They're going to push back. They're going to test the boundary. They're going to try to make you feel guilty. They're going to act confused or hurt or angry. And this doesn't mean your boundary is wrong. It doesn't mean you should back down. It means they're adjusting. They're used to getting a certain response from you. They're used to you saying yes, and now you're saying no, and that's confusing for them. It's uncomfortable for them, and they're reacting to that discomfort. This is where you have to be firm. This is where you have to hold the boundary, even when it's uncomfortable, even when they're upset, even when you feel guilty, because if you back down now, if you say, okay, fine, I'll do it, you've just taught them that if they push hard enough, if they make you feel guilty enough, you'll cave, and they'll keep doing it. But if you hold the boundary, if you say, I understand you're disappointed, but my answer is still no, and you sit with their discomfort without trying to fix it, something shifts. They start to realize, oh, they're serious, this boundary is real, I can't just push through it anymore, and they adjust. Some people adjust quickly, they respect your boundary and move on, and those are the people who actually care about you, who want you to take care of yourself, who understand that boundaries are healthy. Other people take longer to adjust, they keep testing, keep pushing, but eventually they get it. Eventually they accept that things have changed. And then there are some people who never adjust, who can't accept that you have boundaries now, who keep pushing and testing and trying to make you feel guilty. And with those people, you have to ask yourself, is this relationship worth keeping? Is this person actually good for me? Do they actually care about my well-being? Or do they just like having someone they can use? And that's a painful question to ask. But it's an important one. Because some relationships are only maintained because one person doesn't have boundaries. And when boundaries show up, the relationship falls apart. And as painful as that is, it's also information. It tells you that the relationship wasn't actually healthy, wasn't actually based on mutual respect and care. So when you set boundaries and people push back, don't take it as a sign that you're doing something wrong. Take it as information. This person is used to me not having boundaries. They're adjusting, or they're revealing that they don't actually respect me. And both of those things are useful to know. Your body keeps the score, as the saying goes. And this is so true with people-pleasing. Your body remembers every time you betrayed yourself, every time you said yes when you meant no, every time you swallowed your needs to make someone else comfortable. And all of that gets stored in your body as tension, as tightness, as pain. You might notice that your shoulders are always tight, that your jaw is always clenched, that your stomach is always in knots, that you have chronic headaches or back pain or digestive issues. And yes, some of that might be physical, but a lot of it is emotional. It's your body holding all the stress and tension and betrayal that comes from people pleasing. And no amount of massage or stretching or medication is going to fix it if you don't address the root cause, which is that you're constantly betraying yourself, constantly prioritizing everyone else over yourself, constantly swallowing your truth to keep the peace. When you start setting boundaries, when you start honoring yourself, you might notice that some of this physical tension starts to release. Your shoulders drop, your jaw unclenches, your stomach relaxes, because you're not holding all that stress anymore. You're not constantly in a state of vigilance and anxiety. This is why body awareness is so important in this work, because your body will tell you the truth before your mind does. Your body will tell you when you're betraying yourself, when you're saying yes when you mean no, when you're in a situation that doesn't feel right. If you pay attention to your body, if you notice the tension, the tightness, the discomfort, you can use that as information, as a signal that something needs to change, that you need to set a boundary, that you need to say no, that you need to take care of yourself. So start noticing what your body is telling you. When someone asks you for something and your stomach drops, that's information. When you're in a conversation and your shoulders tense up, that's information. When you're about to say yes and your chest gets tight, that's information. Your body knows. It knows when something isn't right. It knows when you're betraying yourself. It knows when you need to set a boundary. And if you learn to listen to it, if you learn to trust it, it will guide you. It will tell you what you need to do to take care of yourself. Let's breathe again. In slowly, hold it gently, and out completely. Feel your body softening. Feel the tension releasing just a little bit. You're safe here. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to just be. I want to talk about self-compassion because this is crucial in the process of changing people-pleasing patterns. Self-compassion means treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would treat a good friend. It means recognizing that you're human, that you make mistakes, that you're doing the best you can with what you know. When you're trying to set boundaries and you mess up, when you say yes, when you meant to say no, when you people please even though you're trying not to, self-compassion means not beating yourself up about it, not calling yourself weak or pathetic or hopeless, but instead saying, okay, I slipped up, that's okay, I'm learning, I'll try again. Because here's the thing, you're not going to be perfect at this, you're going to mess up, you're going to have moments where you fall back into old patterns, where you say yes when you should say no, where you accommodate when you should hold firm, and that's okay. That's part of the process, that's how change happens. If you beat yourself up every time you mess up, if you use it as evidence that you're never going to change, that you're too weak, that you might as well give up, you're going to make it so much harder. You're going to create shame. And shame keeps you stuck. Shame makes you want to hide, to give up, to go back to the old patterns because at least they're familiar. But if you practice self-compassion, if you treat yourself with kindness when you mess up, if you say, it's okay, I'm learning, everyone messes up when they're learning something new. This doesn't mean I'm failing, it just means I'm human. Then you can get back up, you can try again, you can keep moving forward. Self-compassion also means recognizing that you didn't choose to become a people pleaser. You learned it as a survival strategy. You developed it because you needed to, because it kept you safe, because it got you connection when you desperately needed connection. And that makes sense. There's nothing wrong with you for having learned that pattern. The work now is to unlearn it, to develop new patterns, to teach yourself that you're safe now, that you don't need to people please anymore, that you can have boundaries and still be loved, but that work takes time. It takes practice. It takes patience. And it requires you to be kind to yourself along the way. So be gentle with yourself. Be patient with yourself. Recognize that you're doing something really hard. You're changing patterns that have been with you your whole life. You're going against your nervous system's survival strategies. You're doing something brave, and you deserve compassion for that, not criticism. Let me tell you what I wish someone had told me years ago. You don't have to wait until you feel ready to set boundaries. You don't have to wait until you feel brave or strong or confident. You just have to start, even when you're scared, even when you're shaking, even when you're not sure you can do it. You just start. Because here's the thing, you're never going to feel ready. You're never going to wake up one day and suddenly feel brave enough to set boundaries. It doesn't work that way. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite the fear. It's doing the thing even when you're terrified. And every time you set a boundary, even though you're scared, you're building courage. You're proving to yourself that you can do hard things. You're showing your nervous system that boundaries are safe. And over time, it gets easier. Not because the fear goes away, but because you get better at doing it anyway. So don't wait. Don't wait until you feel ready. Don't wait until you feel confident. Don't wait until circumstances are perfect, because they never will be. There will always be a reason to wait. There will always be a reason to say, maybe later, when things calm down, when I feel stronger, when the timing is better. But the timing is never going to be better. The circumstances are never going to be perfect, and you're never going to feel completely ready. So you might as well start now. Start small, start messy, start scared, but start, because the only way to change is to start, and the best time to start is now. Let's talk about what happens on the other side of people pleasing. When you've done the work, when you've set boundaries, when you've started choosing yourself, because I want you to know what's possible. I want you to have hope. I want you to see that it's worth it. On the other side of people pleasing, you feel lighter, you feel freer, you feel more like yourself than you've felt in years, maybe ever, because you're not carrying everyone else's problems anymore. You're not responsible for everyone else's emotions. You're just responsible for yourself, and that's so much lighter. You have energy for the things you actually care about, for your hobbies, your passions, your rest, your relationships that feel good, because you're not spending all your energy managing everyone else's needs and emotions. You have energy left over for yourself, for your life. Your relationships feel different. They feel more real, more balanced, more honest, because you're showing up as yourself, and the people around you are responding to the real you, not the people-pleasing version. And the relationships that survive, the ones that make it through you setting boundaries, those are the good ones. Those are the ones worth keeping. You sleep better, your body feels better, your mind feels quieter, because you're not constantly in a state of stress and vigilance and anxiety. You're not constantly monitoring everyone else's emotions. You're not constantly walking on eggshells. You're just living, and your nervous system can finally relax. You like yourself more, you respect yourself more, because you're not constantly betraying yourself. You're not constantly prioritizing everyone else over yourself. You're honoring your needs, your limits, your truth, and that builds self-respect, that builds self-trust, that builds a relationship with yourself that feels good. And here's the beautiful thing. When you like yourself, when you respect yourself, when you trust yourself, you stop needing external validation so much. You stop needing everyone to like you. You stop needing everyone's approval, because you have your own approval. You have your own respect, continue. And that's enough. You start to attract different people into your life. People who respect boundaries. People who want you to honor yourself. People who don't need you to be small or accommodating. People who like the real you, not the performance. And those relationships feel so different. They feel nourishing instead of draining. Reciprocal instead of one-sided. Real instead of performative. You feel more present in your life, more engaged, more alive, because you're not just going through the motions anymore. You're not just surviving, you're actually living. You're making choices based on what you want, what feels right, what lights you up, instead of just doing what everyone else needs or expects. And you realize that all those fears you had about people leaving, about being alone, about being rejected, most of them didn't come true. And the ones that did, the relationships you lost, you realize you're okay, you survived. And actually, you're better than okay. You're free. So yes, the journey is hard. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's scary. But it's worth it. It's so worth it. Because on the other side is a life that actually feels like yours. Relationships that feel real. A sense of self that feels solid. And that's what you deserve. That's what's waiting for you, if you're willing to do the work. Take a deep breath, in and out. Feel your body here. Feel yourself in this moment. You're doing good. You're listening. You're considering. You're opening to the possibility that things could be different. And that's beautiful. That's enough. I want to leave you with this tonight. You are worthy of love and respect and care. Not because of what you do, not because of how useful you are, not because of how little trouble you cause, but simply because you exist, because you're human, because you're here. Your needs matter, your feelings matter, your boundaries matter, your peace matters, your well-being matters, you matter, and you don't have to earn that. You don't have to prove that. You don't have to work for that. It's already true. It's always been true. You just forgot. And maybe tonight is the beginning of you remembering. Maybe tonight is the night you start to consider that maybe you don't have to keep sacrificing yourself. Maybe you can say no. Maybe you can have boundaries. Maybe you can choose yourself. Maybe you can rest. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to know what you're doing. You just have to take one small step, one small boundary, one small no, one small moment of choosing yourself, and then another, and another. And slowly, gently, over time, things will change. It won't be easy. It won't be comfortable. There will be moments when you want to give up, when you want to go back to the old patterns, because at least they're familiar. But keep going, keep trying, keep choosing yourself, because you deserve a life that feels like yours. And that life is possible. It's waiting for you. You just have to reach for it. So rest now. Let your body be heavy. Let your mind be quiet. Let yourself drift. You've heard what you needed to hear tonight. And tomorrow you can start. You can take one small step. You can set one small boundary. You can say one small no. But tonight, just rest. Just be. Just breathe. You're enough. You've always been enough. You're exactly where you need to be. And everything is going to be okay. Sleep well.